Welcome back to Inside the Lines. I hope everyone had a successful Super Wildcard weekend. I know we did. Made some money across the board there. We're going to get into divisional round matchups, look at some early player props that there'll be some steam on. We have a little bit of NBA today, a lot of college basketball, lots of props from Jake today. But first, let's take a look back at yesterday. 8-8, I believe, here. So could be worse, could be better, but that's why we have today. Going to head into the NHL to start with John here. John, how are we feeling today?
We're feeling good, Mackenzie. Only one more month until college baseball season. So
I heard.
Exactly.
Come with this NHL nonsense for you.
Yeah, starting to get a little excited, ready to get into the season. But still got NHL for now. We're going to go with the Rangers shots on goal play. The money lines haven't been too great recently, so we're going to go Alexis Lafreniere. He's on the New York Rangers, over 2.5 shots on goal here. It's minus 120 on Hard Rock. He's hit this number in all 7 games that he's played in January and 10 of his last 12 games overall. The only worry here is the Kraken don't really give up a ton of shots in general. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league, and they've been playing very well lately. But that's also why his number is at just 2.5 now, even though he's been hitting it consistently. He had 5 shots on goal in his last game in just 15 minutes. So I think he'll be shooting plenty, and I think he should get more time on ice than last game as well. So that should contribute, and hopefully we get 3 here.
All right. I like the minutes for him there. Jake mentioning the chat. Another easy name you really gave me here. You're really good at finding the most impossible names to pronounce here for the NHL.
College only baseball. European hockey players here.
Yes, of course. All right, I'm going to send you into the chat to answer any more NHL questions that people have today. Only 3 games in the NBA today, but so we don't have a ton of value, Steven and Jake, but let's blitz through the 3 games quick. One game we do have value on is the Nuggets headed to Philadelphia. We think Joel Embiid gets it done in the back-to-back here.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he's going to play, and 32.5 points is well below what he's been averaging this season. Last 2 times he faced Jokic, he went over this number with 47 and 34. All the Nuggets, literally all starting 5, are listed as game time decision or questionable. So that's an interesting, factor to look at. But I'm banking on the line moves slightly back towards Denver's side. So that should be an indication that at least Jokic and maybe at least 2 other starters are all going to be ready to go. So I think that this won't be any kind of blowout, and Embiid will have to play his full complement of minutes.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, and if you do play Embiid and he doesn't play, if you just play his prop line here, there's no loss if he doesn't play. If he does play, he's going to play big minutes because I don't think when he does play, he plays 30-plus minutes, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, the Sixers aren't very familiar with load management here, which for an audience is great. For someone who hopes the Sixers do well in April, I'm a little concerned about that, but whatever, I digress. All right, let's head over to another game here. So tell me why we don't love the Kings to cover, even though the model has it as a 1-point game here.
Because Phoenix is so up and down, and this big 3, you never know when they're going to be 2 out of the 3 are on, or all 3 of them are on, like they were against the Lakers a few nights ago. So without a large sample size of those big 3 playing together, I don't have a lot of faith in the Kings' value. The ATS trends are also all on the Kings' favor. They're 20 and 13 against the spread with 1 day off, just 1 and 5 on back-to-backs. Kings are 41 and 22 against spread on the road since last season. Suns are just 7 and 15 at home. So I think that's bringing the line back. So you do like Sacramento, I would get it now because you could get it at 5.5 a few hours ago, and now it's down to 4.5 most spots.
All right, so might be an act now for those who like the Kings to cover. Catch me outside fishing, saying that the Kings are one of the best road teams to cover this season. I see Nick S., our honorary team member, looking at some props we were thinking about today. We didn't make them official picks, but he's talking about here SGA revenge game over 30.5 points. Do we have model value on that?
We don't, which is, and I was all over that. Me and Jake both independently were all over that for.
I think we've had 29.4 points. So I was trying to find. I was trying to use StatMuse to find SGA after a loss, but for some reason it kept just showing his stats in a loss, not the game after. But yeah, it is a revenge game. They traded him in the Paul George trade, but I would probably definitely lean over if anything.
How about Jalen Williams here over 4.5 assists?
We only have 4 assists projected, so we wouldn't have model value on that. But
if you look at his last 15, 20 games, he's been racking up assists. Before early in the season, he wasn't. So it probably, if you look at this a month ago, we probably would have had him projected for 2.5, 3 assists. But he's been racking up assists lately. So I don't mind this play.
All right. Good stuff there. Nick S. still on the NBA props. We only have one, but if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Let's head over looking ahead into this weekend, looking at the divisional round games here. The beauty of only having these 4 games is that we can get an early look at some player props here. So even if we don't necessarily have some awesome model value on the spread or the total, we got some props for you to look out for here.
Yeah, in this game, the steam is with Houston and the under. It's going to be cold and windy. And I understand why people are high on Houston after what C.J. Stroud did in his debut, but the model leans Baltimore. Baltimore statistically had one of the top 3 DVOA seasons ever, if you exclude the Week 18 game. For me, it's also about the wind should negatively impact Stroud more than it does Lamar, because the Ravens have more short yardage, short pass targets. Their tight ends, Mark Andrews might be back. And in week 1, Zay Flowers had like 10 targets, and they're mostly right around the line of scrimmage. So you could always call that play. The few games in his entire life, going back to Ohio State as a starter, that Stroud struggled in, they had one or two of these factors, which is Mike Macdonald-led defenses, because Macdonald was from was at Michigan the first year they beat Ohio State. And then the defense after that was taken over by Jesse Minter, who's also a former Ravens assistant and was McDonald's defense. And then week 1 against Baltimore, and then another really windy day versus Northwestern. So those are the only times that you can really see Stroud struggling. And those are 2 factors that are probably in play for this week. But I do like, as far as an act now player prop, is Devin Singletary. So the rush yard line is 54.5 on DraftKings. It's 57.5 on FanDuel. So the big books both have a pretty big disparity. Models at 72. So the Ravens defense had a great year, leading the league in points allowed and sacks and turnovers. But they had to sacrifice something to get those, which is run defense. So last year they allowed 3.5 yards per carry at home, 76 yards per game. This year that's up to 119 per game and 4.5 yards per carry. So you can't do everything. You can't plug every hole. And so in addition, in an effort to stop Stroud's deep ball and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, they're going to have to give up some kind of yards on the ground game.
All right. And so we've seen this line. Why is it an act now? Because the juice is going up, or you think the actual yardage is going to go up?
I think the line's going to go up because, again, 57.5 is on the board at FanDuel. I think anybody with a model projection will start looking, do what I do, which is look at the split between Singletary and Pierce and realize Singletary is getting pretty much every carry at running back. And then, again, the Ravens rush defense is vulnerable, especially on the edges.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. All right, let's head over to the NFC. The Packers going to the Niners. This is now a 10-point spread. Potential maybe to even get bigger, I think. Not too much value here on the spread, but a few other plays we like here.
Yeah, so the value the model has is on the under. So the story of the game is obviously how great Jordan Love has been. But I think the real dominance that Green Bay showed against Dallas, besides Love, was on the ground, and how good Aaron Jones has been recently. They've been averaging over 150 yards per game the last 4 games. San Francisco, we all know how good they run the ball, And so I think that with both teams maybe looking at the run more than the pass, that tends to lower scores as the clock keeps running on after carries. So the line is, the over-under line range is pretty high from 49.5 to 50.5. It's a pretty big disparity. So I want to shop around. We like the under at 50.5.
All right. Good stuff there. Yeah. And I don't think we get any higher than 50.5, right?
I don't know. It depends what these narratives are. But one thing that I do think is going to get
better looking at Jordan Love and Brock Purdy and giving over energy. I feel like the two of those quarterbacks give. So maybe the public drives this to an over, but I still think 50.5 right now is a good value to get the under.
It's a high number for a playoff game. Games, defenses get pretty intense. And then San Francisco's well rested as well. I think what's going to go higher is Luke Musgrave's receiving yard prop. Just looking at it straight over, he had that ridiculous play against Dallas where there wasn't someone within 17 yards of him. So that as the more that highlight gets played, the more you'll remember that. 4 out of his last 5 games gone over, 9-3 for the season. You know, the line, interestingly, is 23.5 for both he and Tucker Kraft. But we have more assuming there's health, they're both healthy, we have more of a 60-40 split in terms of the tight end share going to Musgrave, which is why we like the value on him and not Kraft. Meanwhile, at wide receiver, they have like 4 or 5 kind of equally talented guys. You don't really know where that is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any value here on George Kittle? It seems to be a bit of a weak spot for Green Bay recently.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, I haven't looked. We'll do more of our detailed props later in the week, but initially we do have value in over 51.5 receiving yards. We have a 59 projection.
Yeah, more props certainly to come through the rest of the week. These are just ones you probably want to get on now. We head to Tampa Bay, going to Detroit. We haven't seen much line movement really yet. Detroit really laying as 6-point home favorites, but we kind of like Tampa Bay in this spot, at least to cover, right?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously dominated Philadelphia. Sorry, Mackenzie. I'm not but they probably should have won by more if they hadn't dropped the ball a few times.
I know.
The big thing, the interesting thing in the model, Detroit is a great offense, and they average a ton of points at home. And I know Tampa Bay has played a lot of kind of soft schedule. I mean, frankly, the Eagles at this point are a bad team. They played Carolina twice in the last 7, but nevertheless, in the last 7 games, Tampa Bay has been allowing 15 points per game. They have only one team that had even 4 yards per carry in a game. For the year, Tampa Bay is plus 2.1 point differential on the road, and they're 8-1 against the spread. So they played ball on the road all year. So in the model, 7 games is a lot for a football game season, right? So that's what's resulting in Detroit only projected for 24 as opposed to the 2017 total.
Okay. So we have some value on Detroit team total under here as well.
Yeah, but not on but the value on the player though. I love Sam Laporta's over half a touchdown. I still think ESPN is playing some games with their lines. They're trying to get some action here because they're offering plus 190 on over half a touchdown. DraftKings has at plus 115. Our model has over 50% of Laporta scores. Even playing hurt last week, he still caught that touchdown against the Rams. And this past weekend, the narrative that will be, all over the, sports media landscape is how big all these young tight ends have been pretty much across the board. The only tight end that, note from this past weekend that didn't score was Cade Otton, who ended up having huge receiving.
He did a lot of
yards. So, you had the Buffalo story with 2 touchdowns by tight ends in the first quarter, tight ends scoring everywhere. And then even in Baltimore, you got Mark Andrews coming back. And so there's going to be a lot of attention on tight ends and their effectiveness in the red zone. I think Laporta's number is going to get come way down to closer to even minus 110 range.
Whoa. All right, so definitely worth acting on now. Has been the playoffs of the tight ends, it feels so far. One more game to get through. Kansas City, 2.5-point road dogs for the first time going to Buffalo. Haven't seen, again, much line movement here as well.
Yeah, as a Ravens fan, I kind of hope that both teams just sort of like batter each other and they just limp out off the field and whatever. But the Bills, we have slight value on the over. The Bills lost yet another key defensive player, Terrell Bernard, and the Steelers actually look like a viable offense after his injury in the second half. Chiefs have a very good defense, but they do allow 3 more on the road than at home. And both offenses, I would say, are trending up. If you take away that kind of meaningless Week 18 game for the Kansas City, they've scored 25-plus in 3 of their last 4 games. That's without a lot of red zone effectiveness, so they've been just getting a lot of scoring drives. Bills are averaging right around 28. They're down this stretch that they're in this winning streak, and they average 29 at home. So I see both teams as having better than expected offensive days.
Fair enough. Makes for a good playoff game for the rest of us. All right. Any other playoff questions? Feel free to ask in the chat. Jake has plenty of college basketball props for us. We want to find them on Prize Picks, or mostly on Underdog. If you want to find some on Prize Picks, you probably can. Steven, if we can pull up the model or odds jam more so for these. Jake is all about the efficiency here. I'm just going to let him take it. We're going to start with Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, Blake Hinson over 16.5 points. All these I got on Underdog. You can find them on Prize Picks or DK, depending on what state you're in. But Hinson, he had 25 and 22 in 2 games against Syracuse last year. This year, he scored just 11 in their first meeting, but we have him projected for 17.2 here. I think this is a really good matchup. We went 2 for 12 in the first matchup against Syracuse, and if he takes 12 shots at home, he's going to hit the over here.
Right. Love a little home prop there. Let's go over to Penn State here. Ace Baldwin. That's an awesome name.
Yeah, it is a great name. I played his over 7 rebounds and assists. I like the push insurance here. We have him for 8. He's coming off a 13 assist game, and he's just been really good. I was surprised that the line in this Wisconsin Penn State game is 146.5. You think these two teams would be really low scoring, but Wisconsin games have been higher scoring this year. Penn State has a new coach, different style. So I think that there's going to be a lot of scoring, and Baldwin could hit this just with assists. So we'll see.
Bam. Sorry, did we talk about Penn State yet and their March Madness hopes compared to last year? I know Andrew Funk got them into a deep run last year.
Yeah, the coach left, and they're for Notre Dame, and they're just they're probably not going to make it this year. But so
Right.
no, and I don't know where Andrew Funk is. I know he played on
He's on the Nuggets G League.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was still in there or if he went to him and Pickett from Penn State last year. I wasn't sure if he went to.
Well, how about him and Colin Gillespie from Archbishop Wood High School down the street from me? Both are on the Nuggets G League team, which is so fascinating to me that that's even possible. Anyway, all right, let's head over to Iowa State here. Tamin Lipsey. Also, just to note, I have these all on a recap screen. So,
yeah, we have Lipsey projected for 5 rebounds. He either has 4 or 5 rebounds every game, but BYU is a fast-paced team. They shoot a ton of threes, and so I think we're expecting a few more possessions than normal for Iowa State games, which is why we like the over 4.5 rebounds here for Lipsey.
Boom. Moving on. BJ Mack. These names are all time. BJ Mack, yeah. South Carolina.
BJ Mack, he had struggled for a while, and then I think he put up 21 or 23 against Missouri in his last game. So just betting on him to continue that success. Good matchup for him today. He plays Alabama, right? So it should be a fast-paced game. Alabama shoots the ball a ton. The only thing is I'm worried about is BJ Mack's conditioning. He's a bigger guy, so that's why he's been struggling in some of these games, just because it's matchup dependent. But he's been getting plenty of shots up, so he should hit this over.
All right, we head over to NC State. I'm having a hard time finding who they're playing, but DJ Horn here for NC State.
Yeah, Horn's coming off a huge shooting game in his last game. He's shot the ball really well. We have him projected for 2.8 threes made, and I like the push insurance at 2 on underdog here.
Boom, moving on. I see some questions in the chat. We can get to those after. Let's just keep ripping through. You have 2 more props here. We'll go to Colorado State with Isaiah Stevens.
Yeah, Isaiah Stevens, we have him for 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think he's like 15 and 6 in his last 21 games on the over. So he either gets a ton of assists or a ton of points. And so I didn't want to play his points or his rebounds or assists separately. I just want to play points, rebounds, and assists total. So I think there's pretty good value here.
All right. And the last game of the night, Utah State, I believe, New Mexico.
Yeah, Utah State, New Mexico. There should be quite a bit of scoring here. Mashburn was hurt. And so if you look at all of his games, this probably makes a lot of people feel very old. Jamal Mashburn Jr. playing in this game. So he hurt for a while, and then he went like 6 for 16, but he hit his over in their last game in a big win. And he's going to take plenty of shots. If he wasn't hurt before and he was still healthy, this line was usually 20.5, 19.5. So I think you're getting good value at 15.5.
I loved his father. They took the Kentucky team practiced the Palestra before that legendary game against Duke, the Leitner game. And a friend of mine is like, who was from Kentucky, he's like, you're gonna kill Duke? He's like, no problem. I mean, they didn't, but still, love Jamal Mashburn.
I see some comments here. Wenzel Walker asking about the Samford Western Carolina game. If we have
some value on Samford here because Samford has been incredible against the spread lately. But I think we have Samford winning by 1.5. The spread is West Carolina. What was it? It's minus one. It's spread's 1.5. We have Samford winning by 4. I think this could go either way. I'm still mad about the Niagara game yesterday. But Nicholls State did come back for us, so I hit that. They came back from 15 down, so that was nice. I played them live at halftime, so they
respect that you're making these money line parlays here in general. Right, you can't hit all of them, but still impressive run, and I have a pretty good feeling about all these.
Going on the model, I think, is Western Carolina's 3-point percentage allowed is 40% at home this year. So that's what's boosting. They've been shooting 43%, which is why they're winning. But it's also why Samford's projected for almost 39% 3-point shooting.
Right. All right. Lots of college basketball for you. Lots of things overall. So a few act now player props for the NFL, something we haven't gotten to yet, but certainly good value to do. And then, of course, we will be going through props throughout the week. Any line movement we see, we'll keep you guys updated as always. So with that, any more questions, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. Good luck with your bets tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow.